My name is Loïc Cobu. I work as a policy officer at FEDARENE. FEDARENE is the European Federation of Regional and Local Energy Agencies. And we work namely on energy communities. We have actually one working group on energy communities. If you are in this webinar, it's maybe because you are part of this working group, that we are happy to keep alive with such events. For your information, there will be another event like this one on 26th of May on best practices for energy community models in rural areas and islands. So you can already take note of this other webinar on 26th of May, 10:30 from 10:30 to 12:30. And for you to know as well, we are trying to make this working group more and more alive. So if you are from FEDARENE and you are not yet in this working group, please send me an email so I can add you on the mailing list. So I'm glad to see you all connected. First, I will let Francisco Puente present the Power E project with whom we co-organize this event, and then I will take the floor back to introduce the webinar and present the agenda.
Thank you very much, Loic. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
All good? Okay, thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. My name is Francisco Puente, so I am the General Manager of SCAN Energy Consulting. And we are partners and supporting the coordinator in PowerEcom project. PowerEcom is an European project funded under the LIFE program with a clear ambition to bring the energy transition closer to citizens through energy communities. PowerEcom basically aims to make it easier to create and operate renewable energy communities and citizen energy communities. And this is done by supporting interested citizens, existing initiatives, and also local and regional authorities that want to support and enable community-led renewable energy projects, basically. PowerEcom runs for 36 months. We started in October 2023. And it lasts until September this year. So we are now in the last semester of the project. And it is implemented in 6 different European countries with 6 different markets and regulations. This is Austria, Bulgaria, Germany, Ireland, Slovenia, and Spain. How we do this? Well, PowerEcom works along 3 practical lines. Firstly, we develop flexible models that help the design, set up, and run viable energy communities. Secondly, we provide training, knowledge exchange, and mentoring so that the municipalities and citizen groups gain the skills to start or grow their existing energy communities. And then thirdly, we establish supporting points, the so-called energy community offices, so stakeholders have a reliable place to get information and get support through the whole process. In terms of the expected results, PowerEcom supports the creation and replication of approximately 30 energy communities directly, and indirectly more than 100. And we strengthen the local capacities and help to spread good practices beyond the pilot regions. In short, PowerEcom combines tools, training, and real-world support so that renewable energy can become local, a local share project with tangible social benefits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francisco. And I will go on with the next slide so you can see the agenda. So to keep setting the scene, we will first listen to Mr. DMEP Bruno Tobac, who will present the EU's policy context. And then we will have a roundtable with various experts from the Power E project that Francisco just presented. So we will start with Christiane Eger from Upper Austria Energy Agency. She's presenting one of the Project E pilots. Then we will switch from Power E to Chris Bretos. Senior, if you can all stay muted for the moment, that's perfect. Chris Bretos from Rescoop Europe, who will present his work at Rescoop as he's focusing on financing for energy communities. He works there as a senior policy advisor. And then we will have 2 other pilot cases from Power E projects with Dr. Popov from Bulgaria and Greg Allen from Ireland, to the top of his director at Municipality of Gabrovo, and Greg Allen is the CEO at Community Power in Ireland. And then we will end the webinar with an intervention by Dora Biondani from the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub. The idea here was to have an angle, a social angle, let's say, on financing for energy communities, as when we talk about energy communities, there is always a social angle into it. So it's good to have that aspect as well in the webinar. And then we will wrap up and conclude. In terms of practicality, we will first hear to Mr. Tobak's intervention, and there will be a space for Q&A after his intervention. Then Christiane Egger will talk first, and we will have another set of Q&A after her presentation. And because she has to leave a bit early, we will let her leave, and then we will go for the 4 other presentations and Q&A after the 4 other presentations. I hope that's okay for everyone, and you can, of course, post your questions in the chat. My colleague Juliana is here to collect them, and I'm looking at her to see if the back is already online. Yes, okay, cool. All right, so we can start with his intervention. To set the scene, and I will let him speak. We invited MEP Bruno Tombak to have a political perspective into this webinar. He is going to bring this perspective from the European Parliament, but also from the S&D group, the Social and Democrat groups. So we can expect a progressive lens in his intervention. As you might know, the Citizens Energy Package was released around 1 month ago. If you had a look at it, it announced several measures for 2026 and for 2027, while we were maybe expecting proper measures in the package, but actually most of these measures are going to come in the months and the years to come. So there is still room for designing these measures. And if I have to cite just one measure from this Citizens Energy Package that directly connects with energy communities, is perhaps the Energy Community Action Plan. And then I'm sure that Mr. Tobak and I know as well from Mr. Vretos will discuss other elements of this package. And it's nice because we will have the discussion on the package, the more, let's say, legislative evolution, and then a lot of focus on the implementation with the Power E pilot cases. If I stop here on the policy evolution, I'm also happy to hear from other perspective from Mr. Tobak to see if other policy evolutions are taking place, namely from the European Parliament perspective. And I let the floor now to Mr. Tobak for his intervention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Loic, and thank you very much first of all for organizing this event. I think it's very useful and very timely. And secondly, obviously for the invitation to address everybody at a time when I would say the role of energy communities in the general energy issue and policy for the European Union is more relevant than ever. I think everyone who has been following energy policy and the whole energy landscape in the last couple of weeks has definitely seen that we are faced with enormous challenges. What has been happening in the Strait of Hormuz has clearly shown that electrification and homegrown energy production in the European Union is more important than ever, because if we want to have safe, cheap, smart energy, then importing it from all over the world is obviously not the best way to offer that to our citizens and to our businesses. Now, the good news is that everyone has realized that producing energy and mostly electricity in Europe is itself no longer a technological challenge. It's also not an economical challenge, because honestly, those countries in the European Union that produce the most energy and the most electricity in their own country through renewable energy are also the ones that can offer the best prices to their citizens. What is a challenge is adapting our energy system to that new production, to increase electrification on the one hand, to increase consumption of electricity, because actually we are right now producing more of it than we are consuming. And secondly, making it available for all of our citizens. One of the numbers that struck me very much in the last couple of weeks is that citizens seem to be very much aware of the need for electrification and the opportunities that it offers to them. Even in Germany, I think there were numbers a couple of days ago that show that demand for battery electrical vehicles has gone up by 20 to 30%. I know that in my own country, Belgium, demand for heat pumps has almost doubled in the last couple of weeks, all because of the impact of uncertain and high energy prices. What is not yet an issue that is solved is that a lot of people are looking at these evolutions and realizing that they have great difficulty in becoming part of it. Those that already have their own solar panels, their home battery, their electrical vehicle, and their heat pump have been very much cushioned from the impact of the high electricity prices. The problem is that right now, all over Europe, too few people have access to that cushion. And energy communities are one of the interesting ways of making sure that people can become participants in this transition with a much lower threshold than we have right now, which is to do it all by yourself on your own and with your own investments. Energy communities are a great way of bringing people together to produce, to use, and to share that energy together in a renewable way, in an affordable way, bringing their energy bills down, which we see in practice in those places and in those countries where we have a large amount of energy communities, keeping the benefits of those lower prices local, making sure that the money spent on the energy stays within the community and the energy produced stays within the community. I think it was at the ResCup event a year or so ago that I sketched the beautiful image that I've been dreaming of for a very long time, which is the local church covered with the roof covered in solar panels, making the light of the heaven into energy for the citizens around it. It is obviously just a caricature, but the reality is that energy communities are a way of making that production local, making the consumption local, bringing prices down, increasing independence for the ones that participated, and increasing also acceptance from local communities for the infrastructures that we need. So in the thousands of energy communities that we already see in Europe, I think the advantage is very clear, both for policymakers and for the participants themselves. I want to point to a little other advantage that is a little known advantage, that is that energy communities also help the entire energy system function a lot more efficiently. When the energy is produced locally and it is consumed locally, it reduces the need for investments in huge transmission grids to supply that energy all over the place. It is a grid stress reducing instrument that is very helpful, that is also saving money, not just for the participants in the energy community, but for the system as a whole, both in reducing the cost for the infrastructure and in making the system more stable and cost effective for everybody, which is, given the huge investments that we are looking at and that we need, which is a very, very useful help. You mentioned already that the Commission last month published the Citizens Energy Package. I think it needs work on it. It is a good step in the right direction. It shows awareness of the obstacles that are still faced by people wanting to start up energy communities. Very complex in many cases, administrative procedures, and a lack of financial investments for the upfront costs that you would need to put in place an energy community. So we need to work on making sure that in the coming months and years, setting up those energy communities become much simpler and much more accessible to a lot of people, that it becomes easier and more affordable for people to share electricity within their community without facing a lot of excessive fees, grid fees, for example, or technological and technical barriers put in place in many cases by regulators who are not yet enough familiarized with the idea and the concept of energy communities, and mostly the access to financing for those energy communities. The upfront investment to put it in place is in many cases still a barrier, especially to lower income households who would benefit the most of being part of these energy communities. So those are issues that we need to tackle in the coming months in the debates that are coming to the Parliament. Not just the Citizens Energy Package, but the general grids package, which is now on the table in the Parliament, the electrification action plan that is coming up in before the summer, and probably also the upcoming discussions on the governance rules for the energy union, where we need to make sure that we fit in these new instruments such as energy communities in the way we design our system, that we get the right support, that we give them the rules that are adapted to it, and that we get the access to financing cleared up. Because, and I'm gonna stop there because this is supposed to be an introduction. If we indeed want a safe, affordable, and clean energy system, we need to make sure that citizens see a very clear, simple, transparent path towards participating in this electrification. It would go a long way towards reducing the frustration that is being felt, I think, right now by a lot of people that I get into contact with as a politician, which is that, yes, they see that there is a solution. Yes, they see they would be better off, but they don't yet see how they can contribute and participate in that and share in those benefits. And I think energy communities are one of the very beautiful, very, very tangible, very visible, close to home ways of making, of reducing those frustrations and solving those problems. So I'm very much looking forward to what is coming out of the rest of your discussion, and to working with you in the coming months and years to make sure that we can roll out these communities to as many people as is possible, and make sure that we can get that transition really on the way. I'm going to stop there. Wish you all a very useful and interesting discussion in the coming hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toback. I quickly intervene to see if there are any questions from the audience. We can take the questions for Mr. Toback now. I see one, perfect, from Christiane. You can go ahead, Christiane.
Okay. Thank you, Bruno Toback. Nice to see you again. Thanks for your great words about energy communities and their powers. I will immediately afterwards talk about our situations where we already can see these power unleashed and unfold. I love your picture about being cushioned, because that's exactly what energy communities and renewables does. However, we can clearly see many member states are dragging their feet. With especially, I think a key issue is they are not fully implementing Article 22 to allow for real-time electricity sharing, which means that the benefits are kind of complicated, far away, and across member states we can see that picture. Also, DSO cooperation is a big problem, and as you mentioned, bureaucratic. Even though the directive, the Article 22, is very clear, it's a very good article actually, and the bureaucratic barriers that you mentioned. I know that the Commission is infringing member states on all these issues, but I was wondering whether from your side of the parliament, even knowing this division of the powers, you can do anything to speed this up, because we are losing time, as you said, every month. This is not working, people lose money and fall into energy poverty.
Yes, thank you, Christian. I'm not sure if I have a quick and easy answer to that. The issue is, of course, the returning frustration is, of course, that you can design the most beautiful, efficient system in at the European level, and I'm not saying we always succeed in that, by the way. But it is still up to the member states to put it into practice. I think there are two things working against this. The first one is that, of course, in many member states, the technical reality, the availability of smart metering, for example, the network protocols to share the data from the meters, to indeed decide what is behind and before the meter and where you get the compensation. I think it's also partly the question that Lady McGuinness has put in the chat. Not every member state has the technical capacity right now. Not every member state regulator has the willingness or the experience to deal with that. And I think it is one of there is no one single quick solution for that. It will go both through the whole grid package and what we can put up there as guidance for regulators to judge investments. It will also come on the table probably when we talk about the governance of the energy union, where again we will need to convince regulators that investments in the grids and access for new technologies, such as flexibility mechanisms, of which energy communities are a part, needs to get a lot more attention and a lot more space to operate. But I think I'm afraid it's always going to be an incremental process rather than a big bang. But I'm very much aware of it, and we will be absolutely working to make sure that space is being provided for these energy communities and for many other new instruments and technologies, because basically any kind of flexibility mechanism is right now faced with the same problems. Battery operators are having the same issues. Any kind of flexibility offer has the same issues right now. So that might be helpful in getting it solved a bit quicker. But fingers crossed. We can sadly not force every member state to do exactly what we want, and maybe that's not altogether a bad thing.
Thank you.
All right. Actually, Christiane, you are the next speaker, so I suggest you keep the floor and you go on with your presentation.
So thank you very much, Loic. So I will share my presentation. So, okay, can you see it? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, great. So, yes, thanks a lot. My name is Christiane Ecker. I'm, among others, Vice President for Climate Neutrality at FEDARENE. I'm a partner in the Power Ecom project, and I'm also in charge within Manage Energy of running the masterclasses on energy communities. Some, I think, here in this room have participated in that. I work for the Regional Energy Agency of Upper Austria. We provide a range of services for the energy transition to households, companies, and the public sector, like many other people here in this virtual room, colleagues from other energy agencies across Europe. In our region, Upper Austria, we have made some progress in the energy transition in the last decades. You can see we have a fairly high share of renewable electricity, space heating, and we also made some progress in energy efficiency. And we have over 800 renewable energy communities established in the region. So this is what we have at the moment, or what we had when we got the last statistics. So there are 1,200 joint PV installations within one building, 800 renewable energy communities, 130 citizens energy communities, and in total these unite today more than 40,000 members. So energy communities and their members have stopped being a little fringe niche thing, but they are entering the mainstream movement towards the energy transition. What is specific and great about the development in our countries, most of them are developed and operated by volunteers. Now you may think this is really different from my own country. However, especially if you live in the countryside, you have come across volunteers who run local clubs, the tennis club, the church group, the youth group, the scout group. So the same kind of people nowadays in our region run energy communities. They're also energy communities that are operated, developed or initiated by commercial actors, but also they need the support of volunteers in order to do the whole acquisition of members. What is important, I mentioned it earlier, that we have real electricity sharing with internal tariffs, meaning the renewable energy community buys, because it's of course a non-for-profit body, buys renewable electricity from the members with renewable installations and sells them to all members. And this process alone is one that creates a lot of investment potential, because suddenly you have a very, very good potential to make economic but local use of your produced renewable electricity. In most cases, this is PV, but we also see wind parks. We also see other renewables coming, small hydropower especially coming along. And at the beginning, this was a mere sharing of between people with renewable installations and others who don't have one, which already in itself is great, because there are many people who cannot build a PV plant because they don't have the money, because they live in apartments, they have all kinds of barriers. And here people with maybe a little bit higher income who live in single family house can make good use and create local benefits. The members keep, of course, their individual electricity supplier for the demand not covered by the energy communities. Our own organization has supported this with a one-stop shop, which is now receiving funding from the LIFE project, and we also put in quite substantial own regional funds. We do have an Austrian platform where the 9 regions and the national government provide information and documents to support with online, mostly with online tools, the process. And we have seen that the complexity and regulatory changes require constant upskillings from everyone doing these jobs, as you, my colleagues, who are already doing these kind of projects and supporting energy communities development know. So in our one-stop shop, we provide advice and support on financial, but also regulatory, technical, and organizational aspect. And often they are quite closely linked together, because if you don't understand the regulatory framework, often you can't give the right technical answers. And if you don't understand the regulatory and technical, you will not be able to support a good investment process. We've done more than 1,600 of individual advice sessions. We do them on site, by phone, by video meetings, and mostly we support citizens and municipalities. We provide information to potential or real initiators and their members. So we have a constant process of awareness raising today in every presentation anyone of my agency holds. Energy communities are being featured because they have become part of the process of the energy transition. So someone develops some kind of project, a larger PV installation, a wind park, a charging infrastructure, and often they think, okay, which aspect of that project could be made use of in an energy community, or how could an energy community help me making a good project? So that has become a fairly everyday procedure with new investments. We have an award, we give trainings, we run events. With a large number of energy communities, it's also important now to offer them a networking platform to help them with all kinds of issues coming up in the operation, and to work together on innovative aspects. So the integration, the full integration of energy storage in energy communities. Many people in our region already have home storage, many also owners of PV installations, but to make this operate this home storage really in sync with the need of the energy communities, that's an innovation step we are currently taking together with the energy communities. It's a bit less trivial than it sounds, but together they have the reach out, they have the members, we have the know-how, and so we can do next steps in the innovation. And also we are acting as a strong voice for energy communities. You can imagine if something is very successful, not everyone, not all market actors are happy. So it's important to defend the role of energy communities, to promote their interest, and to help policymakers understand what their role is today and what their role could be in the future. And my final slide is how to create dynamics for investments in energy communities. From our perspectives, obviously there are many other options. So as I said, enable real electricity sharing. So not some kind of tight hands models, but really where people can really consume and sell within the energy community in a non-profit environment. So we stress this a lot in our context. An energy community is not an energy retailer. That's something very different. The energy retailer is for profit. The energy community is a non-profit body that creates local benefits, social benefits, environmental benefit, exactly as Article 22 of the RED II says. It is necessary that the DSOs help, and echo what Bruno said. Not everyone has it, but it's not rocket science. So the Austrian DSOs, it also took them some time, it also took some pressure, but they have already platforms to exchange data. So what the Austrian DSOs did is they make use of an existing platform which was adapted and enlarged. Yes, there was some investment, but again, compared to all the complicated things DSOs do, this is not the most difficult thing. They have to want to do it, or they have to be made to do it. And there are plenty of bureaucratic burdens for creating legal entities and also for creating energy communities. One-stop shops are critical for promote the interest, to provide the support to everyone in the chain, to exchange with funding bodies and regulators, and they should not be there only for the short term. And if you have these two things, you're already relatively well positioned for triggering further investments. With that, I'm finished, and I hope look forward to an interesting continuation and perhaps some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christiane. So I directly ask the audience if there are any questions for you, any comments. All right, it's the moment, because then Christiane will have to leave us.
I can say another 20 minutes, but then
cool.
I have
All
to
right.
go. Yes.
Very nice. All right, so I guess we can go on with the next speaker. Thank you again, Christiane, for your intervention. So next we have Chris Retos from Risk Group Europe. Chris, if you are still there, you can take the floor and eventually share your screen.
Yes,
Yes, I
so
see you are acting. Thank you, Chris. The floor is
great.
yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I think having heard the context of what energy communities are from Loic, from MEP Tobak, from Christiane, I think I'll now try to map out a bit more specifically what are the concrete funding opportunities for energy communities currently across Europe. So maybe just to start off with a quick energizer to make sure that we gather the attention back in the room. I ask you that you use the reaction. You see there's a smiley face at the top of your screen. It says react. So yeah, if you are a member of an energy community, you can add a heart or a thumbs up. See Todor, I see Loic. See some more people. If you are interested in joining an energy community, you can put now a thumbs up or write it in the chat together with the country that you're from. I don't see any thumbs up. Maybe that means that everyone is already a member. So that makes the presentation even more relevant because we can concretely talk about how you fund your existing energy community. Okay, great. So just to say, and I mean, I think many of the speakers mentioned this already, that energy communities are really a way to decommodify the energy sector. So really to make sure that everyone has access to basically a level of energy that makes life worth living. And we see this, you know, on the left, you see the picture of a bill from an energy cooperative in Greece that's basically negative. And then on the right, you see a graph showing the biggest energy cooperative in Europe, or at least in Belgium, called EcoPower. It's a national supplier. And these are the prices of electricity that EcoPower was offering to its members after the Ukraine war. And on the black line that you can see is basically the prices that private suppliers offered in Belgium compared to the green line, which is the prices of EcoPower, which again shows how energy communities are not really built to extract as much profit as possible from their members, but really their main goal is to tackle energy poverty, to build local energy security, and to just make energy a common good, essentially. And I think the most important thing here, and this is also something that MEP Tobak mentioned, that energy communities, the sun and the wind, cannot get stuck in the Straits of Hormuz, and nobody would bomb another country to steal their energy communities. So it's really about framing them as a tool of local sovereignty, security, and opportunity. Loic hinted at this, but of course we have the publication of the Citizens Energy Package last month. It sets a super ambitious goal of 90 gigawatt of energy communities by 2030. This is a tenfold increase compared to the approximately 9 gigawatt that exist today. And we're waiting now as a follow-up in fact, any day now, in the next couple of weeks, for the Commission to issue guidance to member states on how to set up a national enabling framework for energy communities, as well as how to design national funding schemes for energy communities. Because indeed, as Christiane said, some countries are quite advanced, such as Austria. They've set up a national funding scheme that has really helped the movement to grow. But in most countries, this is not the case. So we hope that with this new guidance, member states will actually, create these funding schemes. So just to give you a quick overview of the state of play around EU funds for energy communities right now across Europe, we are tracking this. We have a so-called public financing tracker, and we look at whether member states are using the European Regional Development Fund and the Just Transition Fund to support energy communities. And we see that in less than half of member states, energy communities are actually mentioned in the cohesion funds, with notable exceptions being Italy and Spain that have really used a lot of public funding to support energy communities. We see that in again, most member states except Italy and Spain, so far, there hasn't been a lot of public funding calls. which is why we worked with DG Regio over the past couple of months to create a guide, a very concrete guide addressed to public authorities, could also be energy agencies, could be ministries, to really help them design funding calls specifically targeting energy communities. We have now translated the document also into Polish and plan to translate it as well in Italian, French, and Greek. And you can also, if you are quick enough, scan this QR code and access the document. But I'm sure, Loic, we can send it in a follow-up with the rest of the resources. And yeah, and just to say that in the guide, we are really providing concrete and proven tips, also drawing from past funding calls for energy communities on how to design a call. And a key thing is for public authorities to partner with national community energy expert organizations to disseminate the call. This could be energy agencies, it could be national federations of energy communities, and so on. To put in place a single portal for all the financing calls that exist in the country, so a sort of one-stop shop, like the one that exists in Austria, for example, to keep the call open long enough and to avoid holiday periods. And we also suggest a three-stage so you start with funding, let's say, a group of citizens that have an expression of interest. So this is the pre-feasibility stage, and then you fund the projects that advance to feasibility, so really putting in place a business plan. And then the last stage is actual construction and implementation costs, so buying the batteries and the solar panels, for example. Another great opportunity that's on the horizon for public funding for energy communities is the Social Climate Fund. We're also tracking that. We're tracking the social climate plans of different member states. And overall, the fund has a total budget of 87 billion euros, and it's meant to support citizens to get themselves off of gas and oil in the building and transport sector. And energy communities are an eligible project, an eligible beneficiary that could be funded through this fund. And so far, our analysis has shown that member states have committed over 350 million euros to funding energy communities, with the biggest envelopes coming from Poland, so that's 70 million euros, and Bulgaria with a very staggering 250 million euros. And again, here you can see the tracker if you scan the QR code. And I would really like to emphasize that in light of the energy crisis, the Social Climate Fund could be immediately activated to support the implementation of local energy sharing projects that include vulnerable households. So there is nothing stopping a country, for example, Bulgaria, to request a loan from the European Investment Bank front-loading facility to front-load the Social Climate Fund revenues and already start implementing calls for putting in place new energy communities. And this is something we discuss in a paper that we're publishing next week on how energy communities are responding to the new energy crisis of Iran. And this is in fact something that Spain is doing. It has already announced a 10 million euro funding call for energy communities through IDAE. And we know that using public subsidies to support energy communities is good value for money. In fact, it was through a FEDARENE research paper that I discovered this really interesting figure from the Occitanie region that showed that for every euro of public subsidy put in a community energy project, 50 euros are generated for the territory. And this is because the money stays local, it creates local jobs, and it ensures a steady and fair supply of energy. And another very exciting opportunity that's on the horizon is the European Energy Communities Facility, which provides lump sum grants of 45,000 euros to 143 energy communities. The next call will be on the 5th of May, so in a couple of weeks from now. Write it down in your calendars. We saw in the first call that there was huge interest. There were 700 applications for 73 slots from all EU 27 plus Ukraine, Moldova, Iceland, and North Macedonia. And last but not least, something we're really pushing for at Rescoop is the inclusion of dedicated funding lines for energy communities in the next EU budget, so 2028 to 2034. We see that there's a lot of discussion now around competitiveness, whatever that means. There's a lot of talk around defense spending, and a lot of countries are right now redirecting funds from the social economy to weapons, basically. So we want to push. We're working now with the Commission and member states to ensure that still in the next EU budget there's going to be dedicated support for energy communities, even if the LIFE program disappears and becomes part of the new European Competitiveness Fund. And this is also an open call again to all of you. We are hosting a monthly coordination space where we're bringing together civil society, municipalities, energy agencies, academia, to plan joint actions around the EU budget, and specifically to proactively influence the drafting of the so-called national and regional partnership plans. This will be, every member state is now drafting this plan, and through this plan, all EU funds will flow to member states from 2028 onwards. So the earlier we mobilize, the more likely we are to, let's say, influence and secure funding for energy communities. So again, you can sign up by scanning this QR code. There's a Google form that you can sign up. Maybe just as a last thought, we last couple of weeks ago, we published, we implemented a major action linking the national and regional partnership plans to energy communities. We have covered 21 member states, including Ireland, which is holding the presidency of the Council in a few months. And we see that there was already quite some positive replies from national ministries, such as in Belgium, Netherlands, France, and Slovakia, because policymakers right now are really looking for solutions against the huge energy crisis that we're facing with the Iran war. So by framing energy communities as a tool for affordability, this has been, let's say, a quite important selling point. And again, you can have a look at the action by scanning this QR code here. And I'll close off by just highlighting this is not so much a funding opportunity, but maybe an important technical assistance opportunity. The Citizens Energy Advisory Hub will publish the next call for technical assistance in September. The call is not yet live, it's not on the website, but you can already flag this in your calendars. I know also FEDARENE is working on this project, so you can directly liaise with Loic. But yes, the idea is that you receive tailor-made technical assistance at the municipal level or as a citizen or an SME to implement your community energy project locally. That's it. Happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chris, for your presentation. Very clear and very interesting. Also to spot the different funding opportunities. So I suggest we go on with the three other speakers, and then we can take questions at the end. So we make sure to stay on time. So then we are going to listen to Todor Popov. So we go back to the Project E pilots, and then we will have Greg Allen as well. So first, Todor, you can take the floor and share your screen if you have slides.
Yes, hi, do you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
You've seen my presentation?
Yes, perfectly as well.
I think that my third place is great in this webinar because we've seen the good example of energy community, the funding opportunities presented by Chris. And actually, I'm presented as an energy expert, but to be honest, I'm not an energy expert, I'm practitioner. So we try in Bulgaria to develop and to launch the energy community through the practice that we have, and all the EU funds were very useful for us because at the same beginning, a few years ago, I started with the summer school that organized in the Greece. After that, we have the opportunity to be supported by two projects by on the LIFE program, and now we continue with the third one, PowerEcom. But before share how we use all these opportunities and how we try to support and to develop the energy communities and citizen initiatives in this area. A few words about the Gavu. We are located in the heart of the Bulgaria, and actually for now we are the heart of energy community movements in Bulgaria, with our two energy communities already established in Gabrovo. We are in a very communicative area with a lot of communication, and actually we lead and participate in different networks in Bulgaria and in European level that support us to disseminate and share our experience with the rest of Bulgarian municipalities. And on practice, because I will try to present our challenges and what was our barriers and how we use actually all the EU opportunities to support technical, administrative, etc. Actually, a few years ago, we have opportunities to participate in the project together with international partners. And we start to draw our concept for the energy community with mapping called barriers, technical, administrative, legal, financial, and of course, maybe the most important that are still on the table, the fear of failure, because it's very important when you would like to be the first. To be fair, that if unsuccessful initiatives, that is political risk, even financial, administrative, and lack of motivation, because without, to be honest, without the EU supported, there wasn't a lot of national opportunities to be supported, to put extra efforts and to work hard on this newly topic for Bulgaria. So the technical is, to be honest, not very crucial now, because we have a good technology in the renewable sources, even in PVs, water, wind turbines, etc. But the situation is not the same with the administrative. Actually, we have a lack of knowledge and administrative capacity, neither in the public authorities or the private sector, because they have standard way of working. A big corporative producer sell to the market, and a small consumer. Of course, we have a hard job with the legal analysis on the suitable legal form, legal entity, how to organize the internal and external relation with the members of energy community, but also with the supplier, with the stakeholders. And of course, the financial, we strongly we believe that there is a lot of free money on the market, never mind the financial institution or the nature person, but they need to be well addressed and attract. So after we solve, of course, not on the perfect way, but in a good way, all these barriers, 2 years ago, we established our first energy community based on the rooftop on the regional landfill in Gabrovo, and how we act. And actually, I think this is the very useful perspective from the EU funds. It's not just to buy the technology or to buy some activity, but it's to make all the process. And the first stage is all this preparatory activity. So we need to have the decision making and secure the resource. So here is, in our case, as the pilot and the first energy community in Bulgaria, our role as a public authority to be this guarantee for the success of the initiatives. After that, we need to have a suitable site according to the chosen technology for the renewable energy. The development of the business model or business plan, actually, this is one of the crucial moments, because when we start to prepare our concept, we have two paths. The one was just to say, okay, we have a lot of experience, theoretical experience with the European energy communities. This is a very nice initiative. This is a very useful. We've heard about democracy of the electricity, independence, sovereignty, but this is just an idea. We choose the second path to represent everything, all this policy and these issues through the real business model and to explain it. And at the end of the day, to sell our citizens the product that they can buy. Shares from the energy community, participation, opportunities to buy the electricity, or just to be part of this movement. Of course, the rest steps of this stage was to prepare the documentation, contracts, the declaration, informal materials, newsletters, and communications. And of course, because we are a public authority, we need to have approval by the municipal council. And actually, this was a very strong step because we received even the political commitment. That was also one of the guarantees that this is not just the initiative of several experts and volunteers, but it is something that is guaranteed from the power of the public authority and support. In our model, because we've seen a different model where the energy community buy the ready installation or invest in already installed, we decided to combine these initiatives with the fundraising and the crowdfunding campaign. So we have, as I mentioned, this product. We have the business plan. We have the technical design plan for the future PV. We even have commitment with the installer and the supplier. So we say, okay, now we need the current amount of sum to be collect, and after that we can move to the next step and to realize the project. The project implementation, it's not something very strange from the and unusual compared to the usual model of installing and operating the renewable energy installation. But nevertheless, I think that one of the benefits of the energy community is also that we increase the capacity and knowledge of the citizens, because otherwise they have no opportunities to be part of the energy market. They don't know what settlement means. Even some of them don't know the difference between kilowatt and kilowatt hours and the power and amount. So with all this communication, we increase the knowledge, and with annual monthly reports and annual assembly, so we have all these instruments. How we operate after 1 year of operation, we have, as I mentioned, every month a report to the members. We are actually 73 members in the first energy community, 59 in the second energy communities. We produce more than 100 megawatts hour from the first energy community. The second one should be connected in the few next months, but expect maybe the same or even bigger amount of energy communities. And as we are supported and we participate with the public authorities and the different experts that are also member of the energy community, we try to move forward, not just to produce and share energy, but also to try to break the traditional model. For example, from the last 2 months, we've already have the household consumer that received the energy from the energy community. This was a long way, because for almost 1 year we just have communication, how to organize it. Is there already supplier to administrate and to organize all these moments? And now I think Chris Retus mentioned it. We are the only energy community in Bulgaria that received the opportunity to develop our business plan through the European Energy Community Facility. So now we work deeper on how to improve what we reach, because we are not the best model in Europe. We are not even the best in Bulgaria. Maybe the next and followers will be better than us. But what we try is to not to stop developing and moving forward. And when we met any barriers, problem, or issues, to solve it by practice. For example, just a few next initiatives. We now, as I mentioned already, we have the household member of the energy community actively use the energy. So we have the ambitions to test this model in the multi-family buildings. Of course, there is a lot of milestones and barriers as different suppliers, the grid operators, etc. But we are working on that together with municipality and energy community. Of course, we try to develop not just for electricity, but for heating. And we have some recommendations for the Bulgarian context. And I think that as now we spoke about the power econ, this is a very good opportunity supported by the European funds, because all this knowledge that we have, now we have the real chance to go and to spread this knowledge and expertise and experience with the other municipalities. For example, we have with 2 or 3 more municipalities, we supported them to create their energy community. Some of them already created, others are still in the preparation phase. And we have a lot of data that is very important, because on paper, the situation is looking different rather than after 1 year of from the establishment of the energy communities. And everything this is possible because of the EU funds and these opportunities for government municipality to be one of the one-stop shop, or in the power econ called energy communities transition office, because we are able to go directly to the interested stakeholders, never mind municipalities or NGOs, etc., and to support them by practice and to present in deep detail in a different form as workshops, trainings, etc., directly and in small groups, because otherwise the municipality has no opportunities to organize all this process. Of course, now with the European Energy Community Facilities funds, we also, as an energy community, because I represent the energy, one of the energy community, we also put this ambition and with the expertise within the energy community to try to spread this knowledge, expertise, and data that we created. So I will not read all the recommendations because they're in a different field. Maybe at the end I will send you to the organizers. And there for the Bulgarian context, what I've heard till now, some of them are not up to date in the other countries. Thank you, and I'm sorry for 3 minutes more speaking.
No problem. Thank you so much, Todor. Very interesting as well. And I suggest that we go on and then we take all the questions at the same time. So we have 2 more speakers, but I'm not sure that Dora Biondani is there because I cannot see her on the list of participants. Dora, are you here? Are you online? If not,
I don't think she is, but you can go to Greg.
Yeah, all right. So I guess she's not. So this means that we have only Greg left, and then we can have the Q&A. So Greg Allen from also the Power E project, he's going to present his pilot case from Ireland. So Greg, you can take the floor and share your screen.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. And I just want to make sure you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen and we can hear you perfectly.
Great. So yes, yeah, all very interesting discussions so far. So I'll just give you a little bit of background to community power and how we started out on our journey. And then I will just go into where we are now and some of the challenges that we're facing. And I know communities across Europe have challenges as well, just to get projects up and running and operational. So the origins of community power, it started with Templederry Wind Farm. And like a lot of communities, it was way back in 1999, which is over 25 years ago. They were looking at how they could establish a generation project in their area. And they looked at a number of different generation options, from solar to hydro to wind. And they decided on wind. And they set up a company, Templederry Wind Farm, in 2000. And what they did is they held a number of meetings with the local communities, told them what they were trying to do, offered shares to the local residents and community. And it ended up with 32 shareholders. And there was 2 shares that were linked directly to the local development cooperative. So effectively, the development cooperative was the largest shareholder because it was based on 1 share, 1 vote. And I suppose from a financing perspective, the way the project was financed in the early stages was if for example, they wanted to put in a planning application, a local farmer came and said, yes, you can use my land. So they put in a planning application for a wind farm. That planning application cost 30,000 euros. So what the members did is that they all put in 1,000 euros each. So as milestones came along, the local community financed the very, very early stages of the project. And over the lifetime, to get the wind turbines built, it was approximately just over 10,000 euros that each shareholder had put in. So that was seed capital, 320,000 euros, which allowed them to get the planning application, pay a deposit on the grid, because in Ireland, once you get a grid offer, you have to pay a deposit. And it allowed them to get to the stage of actually building the project. But I suppose key thing here is if you see that the Templederry Wind Farm, right at the very top, was established in 2000. It took until 2012, so 12 years, to actually go from concept to actually getting the turbines turning. And we're very enthusiastic to reduce that timeline for projects in Ireland. Now, there was a lot of things happening. I mentioned it, the planning permission. But at the time when we got our grid offer, ESB Networks, which is the DSO in Ireland, was upgrading the grid. So they had a moratorium on grid connections for 3 years, or 2 to 3 years. So this meant we could do nothing. During that time, the planning permission was running out. So we had to reapply for planning permission. The second time there was objections, and it had to go for appeal, and that took a 2-year process. And then when we were ready to go ahead, the financial collapse happened. So financing the project became a challenge. But what happened was, it was a financial collapse globally. It wasn't just in Ireland. The turbine manufacturer were trying to come up with an innovative scheme to stay in business themselves. So they actually came as a partner, and they provided the turbines. They financed the cost of the turbines to allow us to actually build the project. And then once it was built, we were able to secure finance and repay, or a loan to repay the manufacturer. So it was very much a concerted effort dealing with the challenges at the time, which, as I said, was a financial collapse. But in 2012, the turbines were completed and turning. And as you can see, there's 2 turbines, 2.3 megawatts each. And during this time, a licensed supply company was established. And this was so that if the generation was being generated, that a supply company could then potentially supply the local community and the wider public. Community Power is a national supply company, so we can supply anyone within the Republic of Ireland. There is challenges in relation to energy sharing, and like a lot of European countries, we are trying to get the legislation in place to allow that to happen. It's not in place at the moment, but it's currently under review, and that will open up opportunities for Community Power and for communities to do energy sharing at a local level. So Community Power was established in 2019, and as I said, we supply electricity to communities, to enterprise centres, to residents across the Republic of Ireland. And partly what we were doing as well was to support other communities to develop renewable energy projects in their area. We were looking at large scale, or you can call it large scale. A developer probably wouldn't, but it was up to 5 megawatts of electricity. And the Irish government launched a scheme in July 2020, and this scheme was to give support to projects above 500 kilowatts, and it's called a Renewable Energy Support Scheme. And we lobbied hard, and it was really positive that we had a separate pot for community projects. This is an auction process, so we didn't want to be competing against developer-led projects. So it was a specific pot for communities. There was a number of different auctions. The Res 1 auction was 51% community owned. And again, we lobbied because we call them ourselves the 49ers, that developers would come in to a community, offer them the financial support, get the project built, but then the ownership and the direction of the project could be compromised because of the developer involvement. So we actively lobbied for 100% community ownership. So the Res 2 auction was built in that it was 100% community owned. And there was an enabling framework, I think has been mentioned earlier on, for community energy projects. So any project that was successful, developer or community, had to give an amount into a community benefit fund, and then this could be administered. And separate to that as well, the SEAI, which is the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, it's a semi-state organisation to support projects and communities in this field. They were administering a grant called an enabling grant. And I'm going to talk about that in another slide or two. So that was the Res support scheme, which was launched in July 2020. We had 2 projects, and this is where the challenge, and I think it's important that we talk about the challenges as well as the successes. We had 2 5-megawatt community solar projects which qualified for Res 1, and one in Galway and one in Mayo. And part of the Res requirements is that they had set 7 milestones that you had to achieve to access feed-in tariff premium. This is a guaranteed premium that you get. And obviously financial institutions like that because it de-risks the project from a bank's perspective. So we were quite happy that we were in it. We went through all the different milestones, and milestone 4 requires that you pay 55% of the grid connection cost. We had already paid a 10% deposit. You have to pay that when you get an offer. So we had paid 65% of the total grid connection costs. And for these 2 projects, that came to a roughly 725,000 euros. And that was financed through the wind farm and to support these projects so that we could get them built. The final milestone is milestone 7, which requires energization. The DSO was not in a position to complete the energization, so we were disqualified from this Res project, even though we had invested so much money. And I suppose Ireland is unique in respect that we have one DSO, and there's positives and negatives to that. And one of the negatives is that there's no competition. We're very much tied into the timeline and the strategy that the DSO wants to implement. And we lost out on this Res 1 feed-in tariff. And similarly, Res 2, we had 2 separate solar farms in it. And a similar outcome happens, that we were disqualified from that Res auction. That was, the Res auction was superseded by an SRES. I suppose the difference, the Res auction, or the Res was all about auction. The SRES, Small Scale Renewable Support Scheme, is not an auction, which is much better, because in Res there could be potentially 2 communities bidding against each other, and only one community would win, and one community would be left with no funding. So this scheme is much better. It's a 15-year support, similar to Res, and similarly there's a package of supports linked to technical and financial services. So all the 4 projects that were disqualified from Res, we reapplied, and now they are sitting within SRES. But one of the challenges is that some of the planning permissions are beginning to run out, and we may have to reapply, which will be another cost of €50,000. And just to say that we originally put in our grid applications for these projects in 2016. It's now 2026, and none of them have been built yet. And then the enabling grant. And I suppose what I'm trying to highlight here is just the challenges. I'm trying to represent all communities in Ireland, not just Community Power. There's a number of other communities that are having challenges trying to get these projects built. So an enabling grant was established, and it's really positive in what it's trying to accomplish. You can see that the early stage support to help communities form an organisation, an entity to get a design and planning costs and meteorological wind analysis, and that's up to €75,000. And then you go to mid stage and then late stage. So the total potential funding for communities is €180,000, which is substantial and is needed, particularly for large scale. As I said, we're looking at 5 megawatts. So the €180,000 is very much needed in these projects. And we applied for this enabling grant for the 4 Res projects. The process took 2 years. There was 2 or 3 month gaps between information and clarification. It ended up that none of the 4 Res projects secured any of this funding from this pot. The enabling grant was then continued into SRES, and now where it's at is that it's not accessible, because the government is seeking legal advice to see if there's state aid rules in relation to double funding. And not just ourselves, but there are a number of communities that have now stalled because they cannot access this funding, which is set up specifically to support communities. We don't know how long it's going to take for this legal advice to come back, and when this enabling grant will be reopened. So it was launched in 2022, and no energy community has been successful. The last community-owned project in Ireland was Templeberry Wind Farm, which I just talked about. That was 14 years ago. There has been no community energy project successfully initiated since then. So this is the frustration and the challenge that we have here in Ireland. It would appear that we're doing quite well. If you listen to that, we have over 800 energy communities set up, and they're doing great work, but it's all to do with retrofit and bringing up the energy performance of the housing stock. But none of them have been able to actually get generation projects, particularly at scale generation projects. So that's the challenge, and I suppose I want to finish on a positive note to demonstrate what's possible if communities are given the opportunity. That the wind farm, there's an average turnover of 1.1 million euros, and the shareholders have never taken a dividend. And as you can see, they've reinvested it in supporting other communities and setting up a supply company. We employ 4 staff, and we're looking at taking on more staff. Hopefully, we will get some traction with these solar farms, and we can get them built over the next 12 to 24 months. And I think that will be a major stepping stone, because not just ourselves, but as I said, there's a number of other communities that are have started the journey, but are now stalled because, particularly from a financial perspective. And we have supported 8 communities through the project, and these support mechanisms, as I say, will help de-risk community energy initiatives, and hopefully projects like Temple-Derry and these solar farms will start to mushroom all across Ireland. So yeah, that's all. And as I said, there's some frustration, but hopefully things will change, and that there's a lot of enthusiasm in Ireland to get projects up and operational and working. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Greg. Very interesting. So, well, and very kind of worrying as well to see this kind of non-support schemes. So I suggest that we now take all the questions. I see
there's one in the chat from Ingo.
Yes, so we can start maybe with the one from Ingo in the chat, and it's directed to Greg, actually. I can read it if you want. Or Ingo, do you want to take the floor to read your question?
Hello, I can do that, of course. So putting on the camera. Hello, everybody. So thanks for the interesting presentations. I'm actually the coordinator, the main coordinator of Power Ecom, and I was actually following, of course, the developments in Ireland, and was thinking, how can it be that a country with seemingly very good preconditions for energy communities, I mean, having one DSO is maybe, let's say, a challenge for the Irish colleagues, but it could be, of course, an asset as well. And I think then also smart meters are more or less not an issue in Ireland. So in theory, I think if smaller approaches, not 2 megawatts, but maybe, I don't know, 0.5 or so, which are, let's say, formed by private-owned PV, rooftop PV installations, could that be then, let's say, an approach that is easier to be realized in Ireland, or is that more or less then smaller but still faced with the same challenges that Greg has just described in the talk?
Yeah, well, I think that market is just developing in Ireland now, and it's really great because, again, the Irish government brought in a subsidy for micro generation, obviously domestic and up to 11 kilowatts. They now have another scheme which has recently been launched, well, in the last 12 to 18 months, for mini gen up to 50 kilowatts. And so those opportunities are just beginning to happen, and there is some take up in the kind of 50 or 100 or 200 kilowatt projects. I suppose we have been focused on the larger ones, just really because we see, the potential for communities to have a revenue stream and to be able to put in community infrastructure like playgrounds or whatever they want if they have a decent revenue stream. But there is that opening up based on other grant support schemes. We are also waiting, as I mentioned, for the legislation to be reviewed in relation to energy sharing, but that's still not allowed in Ireland. And I think if it is, it will support and allow smaller installations of 100 or 300 kilowatts on roofs and spaces across Ireland. So we're starting out on that journey, and as I said, I suppose our focus has been on larger installs for communities.
Thank you. So basically, the regulation, as you said, energy sharing as planned is not allowed, is the main issue that stands behind, let's say, the explosion, the positive explosion of energy communities in Ireland.
Yeah, it's called private wire legislation in Ireland, and it's currently under review. I suppose what we're pushing for, like, it would appear, and again, that a lot of what's been proposed is to support data centers and large projects, whereas we are lobbying to ensure that there is a window for smaller energy communities and smaller energy sharing concepts within a local level. So yeah, that legislation is currently under review, and I suppose I think later this year it will be released to the wider communities and public.
Thank you. Good luck, of course.
Thank you. Then I see one question from Elaine, and then one from Chris. Elaine, you can go on.
Yeah, thanks for that great presentation, Greg. Yeah, there's more just to add on the question from Ingo there, that I suppose the private wire legislation is about whether you can in effect set up microgrids, and then there's also energy sharing legislation that's being drafted, which is about whether you can do sort of more virtual energy sharing that are not actually microgrids. But yeah, we've made a submission to the private Community Energy Federation of Ireland, which Greg is a member of. We've made a submission on private wire legislation, and we're going to be making a submission on energy sharing. And then also on our website, we also have more information about some of the problems that Greg outlined there with the enabling grant. And yeah, other items are discussed in the news section of our website.
Great, thanks. Then I see Chris. Yeah, Chris Brutus.
Yeah, no, just to say thanks a lot, Greg. And I think you know this better than I do. There's this now huge kind of uprising in Ireland with the fuel crisis and, rising energy prices. And I think indeed in Ireland, but all over the EU, we should frame energy communities and local energy sharing as a tool for affordability. We have the new figures from the Citizens Energy Package that show that an average household can save up to 900 euros a year just by participating in an energy community and consuming locally and basically during the time of the day when electricity is cheaper. So yeah, I think this is something that you in Ireland and in light of this new legislation, but all of us across the EU should be pushing for right now. And yeah, of course, we're working on this with Elaine and Sarah in some upcoming conversations we'll have with Irish MEPs. But yeah, just I think good for all of us to keep in mind as a narrative point in the next months and potentially years.
Perfect. And I take the opportunity of your point, Chris, to conclude the webinar because it's almost one, and we can, well, it's almost the end. Well, to connect to what you said, Chris, I would say that there are, so we understand with this webinar, to wrap up, that there are a lot of benefits about joining energy communities, social benefits, but also economic benefits, as you just underlined. But yeah, the regulatory framework is not yet perfect, and we have many files in the pipeline now that we have the Citizens Energy Package out, and there are other files that will be reviewed soon. So I take the opportunity of this call to remind at least members of the FEDARENE Working Group on Energy Communities, that the Renewable Energy Directive is being opened for a consultation by the Commission, and the Commission is going to end, the consultation, sorry, is going to end on June 12. And actually, there are a few questions about the enabling framework for energy communities. So I will soon launch an invitation for a members consultation first, so we can collectively decide how we position ourselves on this topic. And then I'm sure that we will do probably the same exercise with Chris and other colleagues from the Power Coalition, the Community Power Coalition. So yes, many files to discuss, and actually, as we go on, these elements find themselves in more and more EU measures. So it's a lot of work with not always a lot of resources. So I think it's also important for me to underline that whenever you have the opportunity to educate your local, regional, or national MPs, so they understand what we talk about when we talk about energy communities. That's really important. Not all MPs or MEPs are like Bruno Tobac, who fully understand the potential of energy communities. So I think if we want the political support, it's really important to engage with the political world so we can design future measures in a way that support and facilitate the work of energy communities. And obviously, as FEDARENE, we are always eager to place regional and local energy agencies as support and intermediaries for the movement of energy community. So I'll stop here, and just want to take the opportunity to thank again everyone for joining, and all the speakers. I think it was quite interesting. And if you enjoyed this session, well, remember that there will be another similar event in just 1 month from now. It will be on 26th of May from 10:30 to 12:30, still with the Power E project on the best practices for energy community models in rural areas and islands. Thank you all again for connecting. Thank you again to all the speakers, and I'm wishing you a good afternoon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
But
Thank you.